The great crystal dome of Nexus Prime stretched across the darkness of space like a giant bubble. Inside, beings from 847 different worlds sat in floating chairs that moved through the air. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others breathed different gases through masks that covered their faces. A few were so large they needed special platforms just to fit in the chamber. Ambassador Han Wu walked slowly toward the center of the dome. His black suit looked simple compared to the colorful robes and strange clothing worn by the alien representatives around him. Behind him, Dr. Kim Yuna carried a data pad filled with reports. Captain Li Jinwu stayed close, his hand resting near his weapon. The three humans had been coming to these meetings for 20 years. Every time, they asked for the same thing. Every time, they got the same answer. The Council will now hear Agenda Item 847, announced Councillor Vexithari. The tall, blue-skinned alien spoke through a voice box that made his words sound like music. Human territory expansion request. Han Wu stopped in the center of the chamber. Around him, hundreds of alien eyes stared down. Some glowed red. Others had no eyes at all, just sensing organs that could detect heat or movement. The silence felt heavy. Honored Council, Han Wu began. Humanity requests permission to establish colonies in 12 new star systems. These systems have no intelligent life. They contain resources that could benefit all Council species. A sound like grinding metal came from the Zephyrian section. Their representative, a creature that looked like a walking crystal, spoke in clicks and whistles. The translation came through speakers around the dome. The humans already control too much space. They build too fast. They change worlds too quickly. This disturbs the natural order. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Han Wu kept his face calm, but Dr. Kim Yuna could see his jaw tighten slightly. If I may respond, Dr. Kim Yuna said, stepping forward. She activated her datapad, and holographic images appeared in the air above them. Human colonies have increased. Food production by 340% across 200 worlds. Our medical centers have saved billions of lives from all species. The images showed green worlds where once there had been dead rocks, hospitals filled with alien patients being treated by human doctors, ships carrying food to hungry planets. We have protected 89 star systems from pirate attacks, Captain Li Jinwu added. Human defense fleets patrol space lanes that others cannot protect. A Mollusk Federation representative, whose voice sounded like water flowing over stones, interrupted. Human farming methods are too aggressive. They make soil produce food too quickly. This is not natural. Natural? Dr. Kim Yuna's voice rose, slightly. We prevented famines on 15 worlds last year alone. Our agricultural techniques have ended hunger for millions of your people. High Arbiter Coulon, a massive centaur-like being with silver skin, raised one of his 4 arms. The Council appreciates human contributions. However, concerns remain about human expansion rates and military buildup. Han Wu looked around the chamber. He had heard these same words so many times before. The Council took human help when they needed it. They used human technology when it benefited them. They called human soldiers when pirates threatened their worlds. But they never wanted humans to have the same rights as other species. We have followed every rule, Han Wu said quietly. We have honored every treaty. We have shared our knowledge freely. We have asked for nothing but the right to grow as a species. The motion is called to vote, Councillor Vexithari announced. Red lights began appearing throughout the chamber. Each red light meant no. A few yellow lights appeared, meaning the species chose not to vote. No green lights showed at all. 763 opposed. 84 abstentions. 0 in favor, Vexithari announced. The motion fails. Dr. Kim Yuna stared at the voting display. 20 years of work. 20 years of proving that humans could be trusted. 20 years of saving alien lives and protecting alien worlds. And still, not a single species would vote to let humans expand beyond their tiny corner of the galaxy. Captain Lee Jinwoo's hand moved closer to his weapon as he noticed alien security forces shifting in their positions. They expected trouble. They expected humans to argue or plead or make threats. Instead, Han Wu stood perfectly still for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice carried clearly through the silent chamber. 200 years ago, humans first reached the stars. We found a galaxy full of wonders. We met species that taught us about science, art, and philosophy. We thought we had found our place among the stars. He turned slowly, looking at the faces and sensing organs of the beings around him. We came to this council seeking partnership. We offered our knowledge, our protection, our friendship. We shared our medical advances that saved your children. We gave you farming techniques that ended hunger on your worlds. We stood guard over your trade routes when pirates came. The chamber remained completely silent. Instead of partnership, we found fear disguised as wisdom. Instead of friendship, we found prejudice masked as caution. You take our help when you need it, but you will not treat us as equals. Han Wu straightened his shoulders. Humanity withdraws. From the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The silence broke. Voices erupted throughout the chamber in dozens of languages. Translation systems struggled to keep up with the chaos of sound. We will forge our own path among the stars, Han Wu continued, his voice cutting through the noise. We will build our own future. Dr. Kim Yuna closed her datapad. Captain Lee Jinwoo stepped beside his colleagues. Together, the three humans turned toward the exit. Wait, Counselor Vexithari called out. Surely we can discuss this further. Perhaps some compromise. Han Wu stopped but did not turn around. The time for discussion has passed. The Council has made its position clear. Humanity accepts it. Behind them, 44 more humans rose from their seats in the observer section. Diplomats, scientists, traders, and military officers all stood together. They had been hoping for a different outcome. They had been preparing for this moment for years. The human delegation walked toward the exit in perfect formation. Their footsteps echoed through the crystal dome as 847 alien species watched in stunned silence. As they reached the airlock leading to their ships, Han Wu paused one final time. Good luck, Counselor Vexithari. You're going to need it. The humans left the council chamber and never looked back. The news spread faster than the speed of light itself. Quantum communication networks carried the message to every corner of the galaxy in minutes. Humans had left the Galactic Council. After 200 years of membership, they had simply walked away. On the trading world of Nexus 7th, Trader Kelmath watched his fortune disappear. The six-armed merchant had spent 30 years building relationships with human suppliers. Human cargo ships carried goods between worlds faster and cheaper than anyone else. They never asked for bribes. They never delivered spoiled products. They always arrived on time. Now those same ships were leaving the orbital docks. Captain after captain sent the same message. Contract terminated due to council withdrawal. Thank you for your business. Kelmath tried calling his human contacts, but got only automated messages. All external communications are being reviewed. Thank you for your patience. Within hours, the Nexus 7 stock exchange crashed. Human companies controlled 34% of all galactic shipping. 67% of medical supplies moved on human vessels. Without warning, all of it was gone. Director Park Hyung sat in his office deep inside a human space station, reading reports from agents across the galaxy. His people had been watching and listening for decades. They knew which species truly supported humans and which ones just used them. "Sir," his assistant said, placing another datapad on his desk, "the Altarian military is mobilizing. They claim humans are preparing for aggressive action." Park Hyung almost smiled. The Altarians had voted against every human request for 20 years. Now they were afraid that humans might actually do something about it. "What about the Centaurian hegemony?" he asked. "They're seizing human assets in their territory, banks, trading posts, research stations. They say it's for security purposes." Park Hyung made notes on his personal tablet. Every species that took hostile action would be remembered. Every species that stayed neutral would be noted. Every species that supported humans would be rewarded. Admiral Cho Minji stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, watching, the largest military movement in human history. On her screens, she could see thousands of ships beginning their journey home. Warships, cargo vessels, hospital ships, research stations, even small trading posts were pulling back to human space. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving messages from allied species. The Torellians want to know if they should withdraw their forces too. The Free Corsairs are asking for orders. The Epsilon Collective is requesting immediate talks." Cho Minji had expected this. These species had fought alongside humans for generations. They had bled together in battles against pirates and raiders. They had shared technology and culture. Now they were afraid of being left alone. "Tell them all the same thing," she said. "Human forces are withdrawing to secure our own territory. We will honor existing defense agreements, but we will not expand our protection to new areas." It was not the whole truth. Human military planners had been preparing for this day for years. Every ship knew exactly where to go. Every crew had sealed orders. Within 6 months, human space would become the most defended region in the galaxy. On Earth, President Lim Do-han prepared to address the United Colonies. He stood in his office, looking out at the lights of New Seoul. In a few hours, representatives from every human world would watch his speech. History would remember what he said today. His speechwriter had prepared careful words about diplomatic difficulties and peaceful separation. Lim Do-yun deleted the entire speech and wrote his own. "My fellow humans," he began when the cameras started rolling. "Today we took the first step toward true independence. For 200 years we have served the galaxy. We have shared our knowledge, defended their worlds, fed their hungry, and healed their sick." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "We asked only for the right to grow as a species. We asked only to be treated as equals. Instead, we were told we were too dangerous, too aggressive, too different. Today, we accept their judgment. On screens across human space, millions of people watch their leader's calm face. We will no longer ask permission to build our future. We will no longer beg for the right to expand. From this day forward, humanity looks to its own interests first." The speech lasted only 10 minutes, but its effects would last for generations. Back on Nexus Prime, emergency council sessions began. Immediately, Counselor Vexathari called meeting after meeting, but no one could agree on what to do. Some species wanted to send military forces to bring humans back by force. Others wanted to offer immediate concessions. A few suggested that maybe humans had been treated unfairly. Economic advisor Tiplak presented his initial analysis to a closed session of senior council members. The numbers were terrifying. Human withdrawal would cost the galactic economy trillions of credits. Hundreds of worlds depended on human medicine, human technology, or human protection. How long before we see serious effects? High Arbiter Kulon asked. Sir, Tiplak replied, we're already seeing them. Major shipping companies have lost 60% of their capacity overnight. Medical research programs are shutting down. Without human participation, 3 minor conflicts have started because local species know human peacekeepers won't intervene. In the Outer Rim, pirates were already moving. For decades, human patrol fleets had kept the trade routes safe. Now, those fleets were gone. The first attacks began within days of the human withdrawal announcement. The Council had its own military forces, but they were designed for large conflicts between major powers. They had never learned to handle the kind of fast, flexible operations that humans specialized in. Pirates could strike and escape before Council ships even arrived. Meanwhile, human colonies began declaring independence from Council law. The agricultural world of New Busan announced it would no longer follow Council environmental regulations. The mining stations around Wolf 359 said they would ignore Council taxation. Research facilities in the Perseus Arm declared themselves free to pursue any scientific studies they wanted. Each declaration was carefully legal. Humans had always followed the rules exactly. Now they were using those same rules to break free. Dr. Kim Yuna sent a message to every human facility in the galaxy. Return home. Bring everything. Leave nothing behind. Within weeks, the galaxy's best doctors, engineers, and scientists were packing their equipment and heading for human space. Knowledge that had been shared freely for 2 centuries was suddenly walking out the door. Trade Minister Kang Seojun worked around the clock to establish new economic relationships. Species that had been ignored by the Council suddenly found human representatives at their doors. Minor worlds that produced rare minerals or unique technologies received offers for exclusive trading partnerships. The Council had always focused on the major powers. Humans were now building relationships with everyone else. As the first month ended, the Council faced a terrible reality. They had thought humans needed the galaxy more than the galaxy needed humans. They had been completely wrong. The shockwave was spreading, and there was no way to stop it. 6 months after walking out of the Galactic Council, humanity was not just surviving. They were thriving in ways that surprised even themselves. Dr. Shin Tae-hyun stood in his laboratory on the research station Prometheus, looking at the data. That would change everything. For 20 years, Council regulations had limited human terraforming projects. They could only use approved methods that took 50 years to transform a dead world into something livable. "Show me the results again," he said to his assistant. The holographic display showed a barren planet called New Hanyang. 6 months ago, it had been nothing but rock and poisonous atmosphere. Now, green patches were spreading across its surface. Breathable air was forming in the lower valleys. Simple plants were taking root in soil that had never known life. "Project Genesis is working faster than we predicted," his assistant reported. "At this rate, New Hanyang will be fully habitable in 4 years instead of 5. Shin Tae-hyun smiled. Without Council restrictions, human scientists could finally use their best ideas. They could combine technologies that had been forbidden. They could take risks that regulations had prevented. "Prepare the full report," he said. "Send it to all colony worlds. It's time to turn the galaxy green." General Nam Su-Yung studied the tactical display in her command center. Red dots showed human systems. Blue lines showed patrol routes. Green markers indicated new defensive positions. "Status report," she ordered. "All border systems now have full defensive stations," her aide reported. "Early warning networks are operational in every sector. Rapid response fleets are positioned at 12 key points. The plan was called Fortress Strategy, and it was brilliant in its simplicity. Human space would become impossible to attack. Any hostile force would be detected long before they reached inhabited worlds. Response times would be measured in hours, not days." "What about the independent traders?" Nam Su-Yung asked. "All human vessels traveling outside our space now carry military-grade shields and weapons. Pirates have learned to avoid anything with human markings." This was the part that amused Nam Su-Yung most. For decades, the Council had worried about human military buildup. Now every human ship was armed, every human world was defended, and every human citizen was trained for war. The Council's fears had become reality, but it was their own actions that had caused it. Engineer Oh Young-mi walked across the surface of New Daegu, watching the construction robots work. This world had been discovered just 3 months ago. Under Council rules, humans would have needed permission to even survey it. Environmental committees would have debated for years about whether terraforming was allowed. Now atmospheric processors were already running. Soil treatment plants were spreading across the continents. Within 18 months, New Daegu would house 2 million people. "Ma'am," her foreman called, "we found something interesting." Oh Young-mi followed him to a drilling site, deep beneath the surface. Sensors had detected unusual mineral formations. "It's a new element," the foreman explained. "Something we've never seen before. The physics team thinks it might be useful for faster-than-light communication." Oh Young-mi grinned. Another discovery that humans could develop without asking anyone's permission. Ambassador Yoon Ji-won was busier than she had ever been in her life. Her office on the diplomatic station New Harmony received visitors every day. Species that had been ignored by the Council for centuries were now eager to talk with humans. "The Veltaran Republic wishes to discuss mining rights," her secretary announced. "The Crystalline Collective wants to trade art for medical technology. The Wanderer clans are offering to share star charts in exchange for food production assistance." These were the minor species that the Council barely noticed. They controlled small territories or lived as nomads between the stars. The Council had always focused on the major powers, treating smaller species as unimportant. Humans saw opportunity where the Council saw insignificance. "Schedule them all," Yoon Ji-won said, "and send a message to Earth. We're going to need more diplomats." The economic numbers told the story better than any speech. Human trade with independent species had grown by 400%. Without council taxes and regulations, human businesses could offer better prices and faster service. Captain Bae Hyun-woo led his team through the ruins of a Nexarian city. The planet had been suffering from famine for months. Council food distribution was slow and expensive. Local leaders couldn't afford the prices, so their people went hungry. "Target acquired," his team medic reported. "Protein synthesis facility, approximately 50,000 civilians in immediate need." "Deploy relief packages," Bae ordered. Within hours, human cargo ships were landing. Food, medicine, and water purification equipment poured out of their holds. The Nexarians had never seen such a fast response. "Why are you helping us?" the local governor asked. "We are not part of human space." "Because you need help," Bay replied simply. "That's enough." News of the humanitarian mission spread quickly. Humans were not just defending their own territory. They were actively helping anyone who asked for assistance. 3 worlds formally requested to join the human sphere as protected territories. The Council had never offered such protection to minor species. Humans offered it freely to anyone who wanted it. Director Park Hyung read the intelligence reports with satisfaction. Council space was becoming increasingly unstable. Without human peacekeepers, old conflicts were starting again. Without human traders, economic problems were getting worse. More importantly, anti-Council sentiment was growing. 15 species had formally criticized the Council's treatment of humans. 7 species had threatened to leave if reforms were not made. "Sir," his analyst reported, "we're receiving communication requests from Council species. They want to establish diplomatic relations outside the Council framework." This was exactly what Park Hyung had hoped for. The Council only worked when everyone stayed together. If individual species started making separate deals, the whole system would fall apart. "Accept them all," he said, "but make it clear that we deal with them as independent nations, not as Council members." President Lim Do-hyun reviewed the monthly reports in his office. Every number was positive. Population growth was up. Economic expansion was accelerating. Scientific breakthroughs were happening weekly. Military strength had doubled. Most importantly, morale was higher than it had been in decades. Humans finally felt free to be themselves. They could build what they wanted, explore where they chose, and help whoever they liked. "Sir," his chief of staff said, "we've received another apology from the Council. They're offering to restore our membership with expanded territory rights." Lim Do-hyun didn't even look up from his reports. "File it with the others." It was the 5th apology they had received. Each one offered more concessions than the last. None of them mattered anymore. Humanity had tasted freedom, and they would never go back. The human sphere was growing stronger every day, and the galaxy was taking notice. The age of asking permission was over. The age of doing what needed to be done had begun. 1 year after humanity's dramatic exit, Councillor Vexithari stood before an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The crystal dome that had once held 847 species now hosted barely 600. The empty seats served as a constant reminder of what they had lost. "The situation continues to deteriorate," Vexithari announced, his musical voice carrying notes of desperation. "Economic projections show a 78% decline in galactic trade. Medical research has stagnated. Defense capabilities have collapsed in 47 sectors." High Arbiter Kulon's 4 arms gestured toward the holographic displays, showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas of conflict. Yellow zones showed economic distress. Green zones, representing stability, had shrunk to less than half the map. "How did we not see this coming?" demanded Fleet Admiral Zorketh. The massive reptilian warrior's scales clicked together as he shifted in his floating chair. Intelligence. Reports stated that humans were dependent on Council membership. Intelligence Chief Melroth, a pale being whose large eyes rarely blinked, activated his data display. "Our analysis was incorrect. We assumed human cooperation indicated weakness. We failed to recognize their strategic preparation." The numbers on the screen told a story of complete miscalculation. Human military capabilities had increased by 400% in just 1 year. Their technology advancement rate had accelerated beyond anything previously recorded. Most shocking of all, 37 council species had begun secret negotiations to leave. Impossible, snarled Admiral Zorketh. Our intelligence networks are the best in the galaxy. Human counterintelligence is better, Melroth replied, quietly. They have been planning this withdrawal for decades. Every human facility in council space was prepared for immediate evacuation. Every human military unit knew exactly where to redeploy. Every human colony had contingency plans. Economic. Advisor Tiplak's report was even more devastating. His thin, insect-like form trembled as he spoke. The financial impact extends beyond simple trade losses. Human medical technology prevented approximately 12 billion deaths per year across council space. Human agricultural methods fed over 600 worlds. Human peacekeeping forces maintained stability in regions we could not patrol. All of this can be replaced, Admiral Zorketh insisted. We have our own scientists, our own military, our own technology. At what cost? Tiplak's voice clicked with distress. Replacing human medical research alone would require tripling our science budget. Matching their agricultural output would take 50 years. Creating equivalent peacekeeping forces would bankrupt most member worlds. The debate continued for hours, but everyone knew the truth. The Council had built their civilization on human contributions while pretending those contributions didn't matter. Now the foundation was gone, and everything was falling apart. The situation grew worse when the Tyrellian Federation formally announced their withdrawal from the Council. Their statement was broadcast across the galaxy, and every word cut like a blade. For 3 centuries, the Tyrellian Federation has been proud members of the Galactic Council. We believed in cooperation, shared sacrifice, and mutual respect. However, recent events have shown us that the Council practices cooperation only when convenient, requires sacrifice only from some members, and offers respect only to those who submit to its authority. The Tyrellian ambassador, a tall humanoid with blue skin and silver hair, continued her broadcast from the steps of the Council building. Humanity offered the galaxy their greatest treasures: knowledge, protection, and compassion. They asked for nothing in return except to be treated as equals. The Council's response was fear, restrictions, and eventual rejection. Today, the Tyrellian Federation chooses to stand with those who treated us as partners, not subjects. Within hours of the broadcast, riots broke out on 12 Council worlds. Citizens demanded to know why their government had driven away humanity. Economic protests turned violent when food shipments failed to arrive. Medical centers struggled to treat patients without human-developed medicines. Councillor Vex Thari attempted to open emergency communications with Minister Han Wu, who now served as humanity's chief representative for foreign affairs. The response came through standard diplomatic channels, polite but devastating in its formality. The Office of the Minister for Foreign Affairs acknowledges the Council's communication. Minister Han Wu will review your request and respond at his earliest convenience. Current processing time for new diplomatic initiatives is approximately 6 months. Thank you for your patience. 6 months. It was the same time frame the Council had always used when considering human requests. The irony was not lost on anyone. We need to consider military action, Admiral Zorketh declared at the next emergency session. Human forces are strong, but we still outnumber them 20-1. A swift strike could force them to negotiate. With what forces? High Arbiter Kulon asked. Human-trained officers commanded 60% of our most effective military units. Human-designed equipment armed 40% of our fleets. Human intelligence networks provided 70% of our strategic information. Melroth activated another display. Current analysis indicates that military action against human forces would result in catastrophic losses. Human defensive positions are nearly impregnable. Their response capabilities exceed our projection and deployment speeds. Most critically, such action would likely unite every human colony in total war against the Council. The phrase total war hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Council species fought limited conflicts over territory or resources. Humans, when pushed to their limits, fought with a completeness that terrified their enemies. What about their allies? Someone asked. Growing stronger, Melroth replied. The human sphere now includes 89 star systems directly under human control and 23 allied species. The Independent Species Alliance, led by former council members, includes 156 separate governments. Economic advisor Tiplak added more bad news. Human economic partnerships with non-council species have created a parallel trade network. They offer better prices, faster delivery, and more reliable service than council-regulated commerce. We are losing market share in every sector. The most devastating report came last. Intelligence showed that humans hadn't been building an empire at all. They had been preparing for exactly this moment. Every human world was now a fortress. Every human ship was armed for war. Every human citizen was trained for conflict. The Council had feared human aggression and had responded by creating the most unified, militarized, and determined human civilization in history. Sir, a junior aide whispered to Councillor Vexithari, we're receiving reports of another withdrawal. The Nexarian Republic is formally leaving the Council. Vexithari closed his eyes. The Nexarians controlled key trade routes in the Inner Rim. Their departure would cut Council territory in half. They cite the same reasons as the Torellians, the aide continued. They say the Council forgot that cooperation requires respect. As the session ended, Vexithari remained in the Crystal Dome, long after the other representatives had left. He stared out at the stars, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. The Council had thought they were teaching humans humility. Instead, they had taught them independence. They had thought they were preventing human aggression. Instead, they had created human unity. They had thought they were protecting the galaxy from human expansion. Instead, they had driven humanity to create their own galaxy. The shockwave that began with humans walking out of the Council chamber was still spreading, and there was no way to stop it. The age of the Galactic Council was ending, and everyone knew it. The only question now was what would replace it. 2 years had passed since Ambassador Han Wu led the human delegation out of the Galactic Council chamber. Now, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, he sat in his office aboard the diplomatic station New Harmony, reading the Council's latest message. Minister, his aide announced, this is the third formal apology from the Council this month. They're offering unlimited expansion rights, permanent seats for humanity and our allies, full technology sharing agreements, and reparations for damages. Han Wu set down the message without finishing it. Through his office window, he could see cargo ships from dozens of species loading and unloading supplies. The human sphere had grown to 89 systems, with 23 fully allied species. Trade flowed freely, protected by the most powerful military force in galactic history. What shall I tell them, sir? His aide asked. The same thing we told them last month, Han Wu replied. Humanity no longer requires the Council's permission to exist. The transformation had been remarkable to watch. What began as an angry walkout had become the foundation of a new galactic civilization. The human sphere wasn't an empire built on conquest, but a community built on cooperation. Admiral Cho Minji stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the latest exercises of the combined defense fleet. Human ships flew alongside vessels from the Turellian Federation, the Free Corsairs, the Epsilon Collective, and 17 other allied species. 8,000 human warships formed the core of the fleet, but their allies added another 4,000 vessels. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving distress calls from the Outer Rim. Draconian Empire forces are attacking, former Council worlds that requested our protection." Chominji had been expecting this. The Draconian Empire had been watching the chaos in Council space, waiting for an opportunity to expand their territory. They thought the former Council worlds would be easy targets. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "All ships, prepare for immediate deployment. Show them what happens when you attack our friends." The battle lasted 4 hours. Draconian forces had expected to face the same slow, bureaucratic council military they had fought before. Instead, they encountered human tactics, fast, coordinated, and devastatingly effective. When the Draconian commander requested terms of surrender, Admiral Cho Minji's response was broadcast across the galaxy. "The human sphere protects its own. Remember that." Dr. Kim Yuna walked through the halls of the Cooperative Galactic Federation headquarters on New Geneva. The building buzzed with activity as representatives from over 200 species worked together on everything from scientific research to trade agreements. Dr. Kim called Ambassador Yeltani of the former Council World Rigel Prime. "The Medical Research Committee wants to thank humanity again. The new cancer treatment you shared has saved thousands of lives on our world." "That's what we do," Kim Yuna replied with a smile. "When we work together, everyone benefits." The Cooperative Galactic Federation was everything the old council had. Claimed to be, but never was. Membership was voluntary. Decisions required genuine consensus, not forced votes. Technology and knowledge were shared freely. Military protection was offered to anyone who needed it, regardless of their size or importance. Most importantly, no species was considered more important than any other. The Turellian Federation had the same voice as the tiny whisper colonies. Humanity, despite their military and economic power, held no special authority over other members. Director Park Hyung reviewed the latest intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The old Galactic Council controlled fewer than 200 systems now, less than a quarter of their former territory. 7 major conflicts had erupted in former Council space without human peacekeepers to maintain order. 43 worlds faced economic collapse without human trade. "Sir," his analyst reported, "we're detecting massive refugee movements from Council space. Entire populations are requesting asylum in Federation territory." "Grant them all," Park Hyung ordered. "Set up processing centers on the border worlds. Make sure they have food, medical care, and housing." This was perhaps the most telling change. Under the old system, refugees had been a problem to be managed. Under the new system, they were people to be helped. The refugee camps quickly became something unprecedented. Multicultural cities where dozens of species lived and worked together. Human efficiency, Turelian art, Nexarian trade skills, and Veltaran technology combined to create communities that were more prosperous than anything the Council had ever achieved. President Lim Do-hyun prepared for his final address as leader of the United Colonies. After 6 years in office, he was stepping down to let someone else guide humanity's continued growth. "My fellow humans," he began, "when I first took office, we were a species seeking approval from others. We begged for permission to grow, to explore, to become what we were meant to be, The audience in the great assembly on Earth listened in respectful silence. Today, we are a species that offers partnership to others. We don't ask for permission to help those in need. We don't seek approval to defend the innocent. We don't require votes to share our knowledge. He paused, looking out at the faces of representatives from every human world. The galaxy told us we were too dangerous to be trusted, too aggressive to be given freedom, too different to be accepted as equals. They were wrong about the first two, but they were right about the third. Laughter rippled through the assembly. We are different. We believe that strength should protect the weak, not exploit them. We believe that knowledge belongs to everyone, not just the powerful. We believe that cooperation works better than control. The applause was thunderous. 5 years ago, we walked out of the Galactic Council. Today, we have built something better. The Cooperative Galactic Federation represents over 300 species across 4 galactic sectors. We have ended wars, prevented famines, cured diseases, and opened new frontiers. Lim Do-hyun smiled as he delivered his final words as president. We asked for a seat at their table. They offered us scraps, so we built our own table, and now the galaxy comes to us. In the years that followed, historians would mark this moment as the true end of the Council Age and the beginning of the cooperative era. The old system of imposed order and enforced hierarchy gave way to voluntary association and mutual benefit. The Galactic Council still met in their crystal dome, but they governed a shrinking realm of increasingly desperate worlds. New conflicts erupted monthly without human peacekeepers. Trade networks collapsed without human logistics. Scientific progress slowed without human innovation. Meanwhile, the Cooperative Galactic Federation explored new regions of space, made contact with previously unknown species, and established colonies in areas the Council had never dreamed of reaching. Human terraforming technology turned dead worlds into gardens. Human medical advances eliminated diseases that had plagued species for millennia. Human defensive systems protected trade routes and civilian populations from pirates and raiders. Minister Han Wu, now in his 3rd year as Foreign Affairs Chief, often reflected on that day when he led his delegation out of the council chamber. They had walked away from a system that demanded submission and built a community that celebrated cooperation. The council had feared that humans would conquer the galaxy. Instead, humans had freed it. They had worried that human expansion would threaten other species. Instead, human growth had lifted everyone. They had believed that restricting humanity would preserve the existing order. Instead, their restrictions had created a new order based on freedom and mutual respect. The shockwave that began when humans walked out of the council had indeed been instant, but its effects would last for thousands of years, reshaping galactic civilization in ways that no one could have imagined. Humanity had finally found its place among the stars, not as subjects begging for approval, but as partners offering their hand to anyone willing to take it. The age of asking permission was over. The age of building together had begun.